Mesechus Kiddushin Daf Dalid discusses a number of drashas and how we learn psukim and why we learn certain things from psukim and not other things, all surrounding the topic of a father's rights in the Kiddushin and other interests of his daughter at certain ages. So let's begin. The Gemara discusses the pasuk of V'yatza Chinam Ein Kasa, from which we learned that when a girl turns 12, if she's an Amma Avriya, she departs from her master's house without having any money. But from there we learn that when she departs her father's house, meaning when her father gives Kiddushin, when her father gives her over to Kiddushin, there is money and the father gets that money. So the Gemara says V'yatza Chinam is used for something else and can't be used for that. What's it used for? So the Gemara says we have a pasuk that says that the fact that a girl goes free could be at age 12 or at age 12 and a half. When she's less than 12, she's a katana. When she's 12 to 12 and a half, she's a nara. And when she's 12 and a half, she's what's called a bogeres. So the pasuk, when it says v'yatza chinam, she goes free, that's to teach me that a bogeres from 12 and a half can't be an amma avriya, cannot be a maidservant. How do you know that between 12 and 12 and a half, as a nara, she can't be an amma avriya either? That's where it says in kesef, there's no money. So v'yatza chinam for bogeres, in kesef for yemei naras. So therefore, you need v'yatza chinam and in kesef to teach me these halachas. How could we use it to say that there is kedushin when she gets married at age naras? So Ravina says there's another drasha here. You're right, that's what v'yatza chinam ein kesef is for, but ein could be spelled without a yud. And the Gemara is going to show later that we have to find the word ein spelled without a yud. So it could have been spelled ein without a yud aleph nun. Why does it have a yud? So that's for a drasha to teach me that there's no money here, but there is money in a normal marriage. And that is why the father gets Kiddushin money for her when he gives it over to Kiddushin. Now, the Gemara says, how do you know that you can give a drasha from an extra yud? So the Gemara brings a couple of examples of that. We have a brisa discussing the marriage of a bas Yisrael to a kohen, that she eats truma as long as she's married to her husband who's a kohen. Once her husband dies, she can only continue eating truma if she has children from him. So the pasuk says that if it is zera ein law, then she can't eat truma any longer. But in zera ein law, we learn that even if the child that still exists is not her child, but it's a grandchild, that is her own child had died, but she's a grandchild, then she can still eat truma, and that's learned from the fact that it says ein law, which we say ayin law. Look deeply to try to find a child, even one that you would not have automatically considered to be a child, meaning a grandchild. And then it says another drasha, that's to include even a zera, puzzle, even a child who has something wrong with him genealogically, like he's a mamzer. So Gemara says, how do you learn it? Two things. And Gemara says, no, one, you really don't need a pasuk for grandchildren because grandchildren are considered to be children. It's a Gemara in Yivamis, it's a Gemara we've seen in Gittin. Grandchildren have the halachic status of children in many ways. So, but there you do see that you're making a drasha from the extra yud. You're saying it says ein law, you're learning out ayin law. So now the Gemara says, okay, I understand that you can prove to me from a brisa that such a drasha exists, but how would the Tana of the brisa know that that exists? How does the Tana himself know you can make a drasha from an extra yud? So the Gemara quotes the pasuk. It says me'ein bilam halechi imanu, where the messengers of Vahalak reported to him that Bilam did not want to go, and there it's spelled me'ein. The word ein of me'ein is spelled with a yud, and also you have me'ein yavami in the parsha of Yibam, when she says that my Yavam refuses to do Yibam for me. Again, me'ein is also spelled without a yud. So now the Gemara says, there's your source, that yud is not required, and you could use the yud for a drasha. So now the Gemara notes, we have two rights of a father and his daughter that have separate drashas for them. One is that he gets her Kiddushin money, and the other is that he gets her ma'aseh dayim, her work, her earnings. So why do you need both of them? They're both monetary value that accrues from her. If you see the one goes to him, the other one should go to him as well. So the Gemara says, no, you need both of them. If you only had her Kiddushin money, you may think that's because she didn't do anything. You shouldn't have to put any effort into earning that money. So maybe that's why she doesn't get to keep it and it goes to her father, who's the one who birthed her. However, maybe her work she has the right to keep. On the other hand, if we only say that her work money goes to her father, that could be because he's supporting her, he's paying her bills, and therefore her income goes to him. But Kiddushin money, which has nothing to do with his support for her, then it's not an exchange of his support for her, perhaps she would get to keep that, and that's why you need a pasuk to teach you both of those halachas. The Gemara now refers back to the drasha that we said that v'yatza chinam is to teach me that a boigeres from age 12 and a half cannot be an amma avriya, And in Kesef to teach me that an hour from age 12 to 12 and a half can't be an Amariya either. She goes free when she turns 12. So the Gemara asks, if she goes free when she turns 12, why did you need to tell me that she's free when she turns 12 and a half? She was free already. She can't be an Amariya even before that. So the Gemara is going to try 3 attempts at an answer here. The Gemara's first answer is Rabbah. Rabbah says, simple, if I only said one of the two, if I only had one drasha, I would not know which one to refers to. They're non-specific. I have 2 drashas, V'yas Chinam and in Kesef. That way I know both ages are free from being an Amma Ivriya, and therefore it's both Naras and the Bagras. If I only had one, I would assume it's Bagras, so assume it's the older age, which is the smallest Chiddush. Why would I assume that it's Naras? And therefore, I have to say both things. And now I know that both are covered. It's not enough to say just one. So Gemara says, I'll show you another example of a similar type of halacha. We know that a kohen eats truma, and a kohen can give truma to any Eved Kanani which belongs to him. An Eved Ivri that belongs to him cannot eat truma. Now, there are 2 types of Eved Ivri. There's one within the first 6 years of his service, and then there's one who did the Nirtza procedure. After the end of 6 years, he had the hole drilled in his ear, and now he stays until Yovel. That is much more part of the kohen's household. He much more belongs to the household. He's less like a servant, more like a slave. So there's a much bigger chiddush to say that he can't eat truma. Now, the Torah says to limudin. It says, Ubas, it says, Chol lo yechol kodesh, Toishav kohen v'socher lo yechol kodesh. So you have Toishav kohen and a socher. So one is for an Eved Ivri within 6 years, what we call an Eved has Kinyan Shanim, and one is for Kinyan Oilam, which is after 6 years. So why do I need to say both of them? If the Kinyan Oilam can't eat Truma, obviously the Kinyan Shanim can't eat Truma. He much less belongs to the Kohen. So the Bryson there says, you need it because if I only had one of the 2 limudim, but if I only had a Toishav or Sacher, I didn't have both of them, then I would assume it's the smaller Chiddush. I would assume it's only talking about on the Eved Ivri Shanim. I would know the Eved Ivri Oilam as well. Therefore, I have to say both. That way I know one of them is talking about the Oilam, but the other one must be talking about the Shanim. So Abaye rejects this. Abaye says there is no proof from there. There, all you have is Kal V'Chomer. You have Shanim and you have Oilam. If you were to tell me one of the 2, if you were to tell me the bigger chiddush, if you were to tell me that an Eved Ivri Oilam doesn't eat truma, Kal V'Chomer, and Eved Ivri Shanim doesn't eat truma, that's not the end of the world. I can answer you, and I can say the Torah wrote 2 psukim anyway. We have a rule: sometimes you could figure something out from Kal V'Chomer, but the Torah teaches me that halacha anyway, and that's just the way it is, and that's not something that we can't be civil. Now, therefore, you don't have a proof from there that you have to write both psukim. Maybe I didn't have to write both. And if I would write with just one, I would know which one it is. And I wrote the other one anyway, because in our case of the Alma Avriya, you can't say that, because it's the same person. If she's already free at age 12, and you can't make her into Alma Avriya at age 12, why are we saying that she can't be an Alma Avriya at 12 and a half? The same person is already can't be an Alma Avriya. So it's not a Kal V'Chomer, and you can't say Milsa Dasu Kal V'Chomer Tarach because of Lakra. You can't, it's not possible. So therefore Abaye says that there's a different answer here. Abaye says the reason why you need Yatzachinem and you need in Kesef is one is talking about a girl when she becomes a Naira, 12 and a half. The other is talking about a Begaris who was never a Naira. She skipped the stage of Nairas, and that's an Islandess. An Islandess is a woman who never develops the sign of adult femalehood. She never develops what we call Simoni Nairis, and at age 20 she becomes a Begaris automatically, even without the physical signs. So for her, she was a Kitana until she turned 20, and then she went straight to being a Begaris. That Begaris, we need an extra pasuk to tell me that she becomes, that she goes free from her master at that time, that you go free with Naras for a normal girl and with Bagras for an Islandess. So in this, Mar Bar Avashi asks the kasha, and he says that it's a Kal V'Chomer here. Let's compare Naros turning 12 to Bagras turning 12 and a half. Naros takes a girl out of the rishus of her adain, even though it does not take her out of the rishus of her father. Her father still has rights over her, like we've seen, Kiddushin Daf. So you see that the power of leaving the adain is stronger, is easier for that to happen than the power of leaving the father. So a Begaris, which takes a girl out of the rishus of her father, certainly takes her out of the rishus of the adain. So why do I need a pasuk for that? Now the Gemara is going to ask soon. We just said most of those Kal V'Chomer, but for now, Mar Bar Avashi says is Omshat, he says we're talking about the concept that an eyeless can be an Amariya at all. You may have thought that an eyeless can never be an Amariya because she can never have Simone Nairis. Therefore, an eyeless is not included in the entire parsha because it's only someone who has the concept of Nairis. Therefore, you need this to tell me that she is the pasuk refers to her going free as a Begeris to teach me that she can be an Amariya in the first place. And the Gemara asks again what we just said. What's Maravashi asking that it's a Kavachomer? We just said sometimes you'll say a pasuk even if you could learn it out of a Kavachomer. So I think my answer is that's if you can't give an answer. If you're stuck, you can come on to that. That would be an acceptable approach. But here, Maravashi has a different shot, and therefore he offers his shot because of that. The Gemara now returns to our previous discussion on the last daf, which is what is the source that there is Kinyan Kiddushin with Kesef, that you can make a marriage with Kesef, you can do Kiddushin with giving valuables. So we have already brought one source, which we've been discussing here, that of Ein Kesef L'Ad and Zav, V'yesh Kesef L'Ad and Acher. The Gemara now goes to another source, which we saw mentioned on Daf Beis, which is that, because the Torah says, in discussing marriage, it says, Ki Yikach Ish Isha, use the word Kicha, and Yikach is something that links us to the purchase of a field. Like it says when Ephraim Avinu bought his field from Ephraim, it says, Nasati Kesef Asada Kach Mimeni, and therefore you see that Kicha is something you do with money. So the Gemara says, okay, but why do I need this? We should be able to learn that Kesef, that money works with a Kal V'Chomer by comparing it to Bia. Bia is one of the kinyanim that work for an Isha to make a Kiddushin, as we've seen in the Mishnah. And Kesef is something which is stronger in kinyanim than Bia is. How do we see that? By looking at an Amavriya. An Amavriya, Kesef works, but Bia does not. So therefore, that proves Amavriya proves that Kesef is stronger than Bia as far as the ability to make kinyanim. So if Bia works in an Isha, certainly Kesef should work. So I could prove to you that Kesef is actually weaker in a different example. Look at a Yevama. The Yevama could be kind of through Yibam, which is Bia, but Kesef does not make a kinyan on her. So therefore you have no proof that Kesef is actually stronger than Bia, because for the proof you have, I have a counterproof. Somebody says your counterproof doesn't count. There's a reason that for Yevama, the Kesef does not work. And that's because Yevama is hard to be kaina in many ways. Even Shtar doesn't work for Yevama. Bia is specific to Yevama. And that's why Yevama is different. However, when we're comparing an Amavriya to a regular Isha, both could be kind of with Shtar, and yet we see that in both of them, Kesef is a stronger kinyan than the Bia, so that's the proof that I have. So therefore, the Gemara says we should be able to learn out of a Kal V'Chomer. So the Gemara says, no, we need Ki Yikach Ish Isha. The Gemara says again, why? It just asks you why. Rashi says, because you can't learn anything from Amavriya really. Because I can say Amavriya can't prove that Kesef is stronger than Bia, because Amavriya has a special particular relationship to Kesef that Isha doesn't have. Where do you see that? Because an Amavriya leaves her situation with Kesef. She can buy herself out. Like it's, on the other hand, a woman cannot buy herself out. There is no divorce through her giving money. Therefore, you need the limit of Ki Yikach Ish Isha. So now the Gemara says we have two psukim here. We have V'yatzachinam and Kesef, and we have Ki Yikach Ish Isha. Why do I need both of them? So the Gemara says if we would only say Ki Yikach Ish Isha, then I would think that there is money. We know that there is money there. We just don't know who gets the money. I would think that she gets the money, and therefore you need the other pasuk to teach me actually Ein Kesef, that it goes to the father. And if I only had that pasuk, which teaches me that Ein Kesef and Zav, Yesh Kesef and Acher, I would think that there is Kesef, but I wouldn't know that the husband has to give the Kesef to the wife. I would think maybe the wife could actually be a Mekadosh the husband by giving him Kesef. And therefore